home inspections are important, and here's how to negotiate when something comes up. So I have 4 categories here when something does come up, or maybe nothing comes up at all in home inspection. But the first one is the severity. Is there a structural damage? If there's structural damage, could that be a deal breaker? Like, as the buyer's point of view, it's like, dude, I'm not buying something that's gonna collapse. So that's one thing, and you could like negotiate. If it's like really bad, like bad, 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 well then you can just go ahead and walk away. But if it's something where it's bad but can be repaired, maybe it's like, not like shrilly bad but bad, where if the buyer does walk away, the next buyer that comes up, it's gonna come up in the next inspection, so the seller just might have to go ahead and repair it anyways. So that's one way to look about it. And maybe there's just a little tiny minor repair, and it's just something the buyer doesn't want to, get in negotiations about over 200, $300, where you just, okay, nothing really came up, just this little tiny thing, because we just want a smooth sailing to get to closing. Let's just get to closing. But maybe you do want to fight for that 200, $300. Well, then you can have, hey, Mr. Seller, can you repair XYZ problem? And they might go for it. And it could be awesome. You just save yourself $300. And if it's, I have severe again, but just like if it's like severely severe, well then you go ahead and walk away, keep your earnest money as a buyer's point of view. But as we just talked about, if it's something that can be repaired, maybe the seller will go ahead and do it because it's just probably going to come up again. And one way to go and resolve problems is concessions. Concessions comes from the seller net proceeds that can be used many different things for buyers. One is closing costs. Another is buy down mortgage interest rates. So what usually happens sometimes is you can ask for a credit when something comes up in a home inspection. Maybe you get a quote for the bill, it's $1,500. Instead of having the seller use their debit card or pay for it right on the spot, they could just have, it'd just be easier just to write a credit, just to have a credit at closing, go towards the buyer. So the buyer doesn't have to bring that $1,500 to closing. So they still have that liquid cash to where they can fix that repair after closing and whenever they want. So that's, in theory, a very effective way and a very common way to go about negotiations. So, let the buyer, and one way that's also really good with concessions is, you let the buyer fix how they want it fixed. So if they're picky, well then the seller could go ahead and fix whatever happens, but the seller could be like, no, we wanted actually this instead, and then it just gets into a headache. So it'd just be easier to let the buyer fix it and how they want it. So that's one thing. And then, like I just said, the seller doesn't have to pay out of pocket, just easier, give them a credit, it'll be taken care of at closing, and that's an easy way to go about concessions and, negotiations. Next thing is leverage. This is extremely, extremely, extremely important. Who has the leverage in the situation? Maybe the seller cannot put the property back on the market. They're in a home sale contingency. They need this thing to sell to buy their next one. They cannot do it. They will potentially, fix anything that needs to be fixed, and you can take advantage of that on the flip side from the buyer's point of view. And the vice versa could be true. Maybe the buyer extremely wants this house because they just told their landlord that they're renting in, we're done in 2 weeks. Like we need this house or we're going to be homeless. So the buyer could not even request a repair. They just accept what's happened in an inspection and fix it after closing. So that's extremely important. Who has the leverage? Because whoever has the most leverage is probably going to get the better end of the stick. And it's extremely important also to keep your motivation private so people don't understand these situations, because if one party understands the other situation, you can be taken advantage of and you really get a good deal for if you're the person who knows the other party's motivation. That's why I keep it private. And also, like deal breakers, the buyer can walk away with their earnest money and keep it in the inspection so that, they have some leverage. And maybe the seller just doesn't care. They'd be like, what, this property is extremely desirable. We ended up choosing the wrong offer. We thought the buyer was pretty serious. There's a lot of offers on the table, and we didn't realize that they would do this. We can just get another buyer. It won't be that hard. So each way, has deal breakers in the buyer side, the seller side. Like it won't matter sometimes because the other party may just be okay because they understand they have leverage. So hopefully you guys found something valuable in this video. If you did, please subscribe on YouTube. If you're on any other platform, like and follow for more. Have a good one. Bye.